Welcome to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. I'm your host, Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm here to inspire you, empower you, and connect you with trusted divorce professionals who I hope will help you achieve the best possible divorce outcome and a great post-divorce life. The Divorced Girl Smiling podcast starts right now. Before we get started, I want to say that one of the hardest life decisions is, should we get divorced or try to save our marriage? So many couples go back and forth for months, sometimes even years, trying to make the right decision. Well, did you know that there's a process called discernment counseling that's dedicated to helping you and your spouse make that decision? And if you're interested in this, I want to tell you a little bit about it. It's 1 to 4 sessions. It's very different than couples counseling because you're not trying to work out your problems. You're figuring out if the marriage can work if you go to therapy. If you're looking for somebody to do this discernment counseling for you, I would highly recommend Dr. Ginny Wright. She's so dedicated to this. She's been a therapist for decades, and she is focusing so much of her practice on discernment counseling. She's a master practitioner in the field. If you want to learn more or have a consultation with Ginny, you can find her at lwadiscernment.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful divorce lawyer in Wisconsin named Renee Reed. Renee has been practicing divorce law for over 20 years. She's a partner with Remley Law located in Neenah, Wisconsin. And Renee utilizes both litigation and mediation in her practice. She's known for her professionalism, service, and dedication. If you want to learn more, you can find Renee on the Remley Law website, which is remleylaw.com. And you can find both Ginny and Renee in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. When people get divorced, particularly women, one of their biggest fears are finances. And they have all these financial fears, which we're going to discuss today. And they're very intimidated, I find, by a lot of these things. And really, if you're listening to this and you're like, yes, this is me, you shouldn't be. And we're going to tell you why you don't have to be intimidated and nervous and why everything is going to turn out really, really well for you. I have a great guest. Her name is Leah Hadley. She's a CDFA. She's a financial advisor, a divorce mediator, and her practice also has a coaching component to it as well. Hi, Leah.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks so much for having me.
Always nice to see you. And I'm sure that you have had your share of women who have just felt intimidated and scared and nervous about anything financially related. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. And Jackie, I always share with people, even when I went through my own divorce, I had already been in equity research. I had already become a financial advisor. I mean, by all kind of definition, I was very financially savvy when I went through my divorce and still completely overwhelmed with all the financial decisions that needed to be made because it's a huge change. And for me, I had 3 young kids at the time, and they were depending on me, right? And making sure, and that it just felt like there was so much that could go wrong. And so I always share that with people because regardless of where you're coming from a financial standpoint, your knowledge level, the change alone just exacerbates the stress of the situation, right? And so that makes it very hard to make clear financial decisions. When you're feeling unclear, that lack of clarity has all these things buzzing in your mind, whether it's, how am I going to pay the bills, or can I afford to stay in the house, or all of these different things that really weigh on us, completely and totally normal, again, regardless of your financial situation.
Well, it's really interesting that you say that because when I got divorced 18 years ago, I have a Series 7 license. I don't know if you know that, Leah, but my first job out of college, I worked for an investment firm. I was a sales assistant, and at the time, they were like stockbrokers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really dating myself here. And I aspired to take the Series 7 and start trading and doing that. And even having a license,
Yep.
I still don't really understand the stock market, really. I mean, basic things I do. But when you're right, when I got divorced, I always handled money. I handled it before I was married, and I was still really scared. So we are talking to you, whoever's listening, whether you have zero experience in the financial industry or if you work in it and you know it, but you're still scared and you're like shaming yourself because you're like, why am I scared? I should know this. It's very normal and understandable.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. I want to ask you about specific, let's list what somebody might be fearful of. Go ahead, you start.
Well, the cost of the divorce itself can feel very scary because it's this huge unknown for most people, right? Most people don't understand how to control the cost of the divorce itself. And if you're not conscious of it, they can very quickly spiral out of control if you're not planning for it, right? So that alone can feel very scary. But you're also looking at this transition, right, of potentially maybe two incomes supporting one household to two incomes supporting two households, or maybe one income supporting one household to one income supporting two households, right? And so that change in cash flow, the expenses are going up one way or the other. The income, for the most part, in most people's cases, are going to stay fairly similar. Household income, when we're looking at support, child, spousal support, that's a different conversation. But overall picture for the family, income generally stays the same and expenses go up. That makes a stressful cash flow situation. So, Jackie, like you, even if you had paid the bills in the past and you were very comfortable paying the bills, now suddenly that can feel scary, is just making sure that our cash flow is such that we can comfortably support paying the bills. Forget the fact that many of us have never even gone online to pay bills, right? Like the way people pay bills nowadays has changed over the years. And it might be a situation where you're sitting there going, well, I used to write checks every month, right? And that's just not how bills get paid anymore. And it might be the actual act of sitting down with somebody at your bank and making sure that you understand how to go through the action of paying the bill. So if
And
you
by
are
the way, it's the easiest. I actually think it's kind of fun paying bills. Like you just click and then you're like, wow, it's done. I don't have to go get stamps. I don't have to mail these letters. So I actually really enjoy it. It feels kind of cleansing.
I have not heard anybody say that they actually enjoy it before, Jackie, but I think that's fantastic.
Well, I'm
Um,
talking like the $30 NICOR bill or something like that. The big ones are a little rough.
um, the big, big, big thing that comes up in most cases, though, is the house, right? For most married couples, the house is going to be, if not the largest asset, one of the largest assets. And here you are going through this huge change in your life, whether you have kids at home or not. This is a big restructuring of your family. And now it's like, well, you might have to move also on top of all these other changes. That's scary on multiple levels, right? It's the whole, like, just thinking about that process of moving. I just, over the summer, I had some folks come and help me declutter my house because my mom had passed away, my grandparents over the years had passed away. I just had all this stuff that had accumulated. And then, with my kids growing up over the years and they grew out of the toys and out of the clothes. And anyway, it just felt like a lot of stuff. Um, if somebody had talked to me about moving 6 months ago before I had these decluttering people come through, oh my God, Jackie, I probably would have just cried. Like, honestly, it would have been so much work to just move. And that's not even talking about the financial piece, right? That's literally talking about like dealing with all the stuff and the physical and packing it up and, all of that. And so that can feel very scary for people, but also then not knowing where you're going to be living and what that's going to look like and what that's going to feel like and what that's going to
And
cost. That can
living by yourself
exactly.
is another thing. But okay, we're going to keep talking about this, but I want to just say one thing if you're listening to this, because I know people are going to feel validated by me saying this. Even though it's scary to pay bills, even though it might be scary to move, even though it might be scary, all these fears that we're talking about, I remember when I was getting divorced, like Leah just said, the household income stays the same, but the expenses go up. Even with all of that, I knew I had to get out of a toxic situation and I didn't care. So if you're listening to this, you're way ahead of the game because you're going to be so much happier. And I remember being a lot happier living on less than I was being wealthier and married and not in the right situation. So
I
I thought I
so
would.
appreciate that you just said that, Jackie, because I see it in my practice all the time. I lived it. And I know that a lot of people who just heard you say that have a hard time believing it. But the reality is, when you are in full control of your situation, if you were in a toxic situation previously, and everybody's situation is different, but you are absolutely right. You can live on less. You can actually be much happier than you were if you were in a toxic relationship, for sure.
You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And today we're talking about financial fears that women have, why they're intimidated, and why they shouldn't be. My guest is Leah Hadley, a CDFA, a financial advisor, a divorce mediator, and Leah, you're not a coach, but you have Liesl, who's a coach that works with you. So
So
she
we
also
have,
has.
yeah, we offer divorce coaching. Liesl does divorce coaching. And then I am an accredited financial counselor. So some of the financial coaching I do is kind of under that umbrella.
Got it. And we are going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how to have less stress about worrying about these things, a few things you can actually do that so you won't have as much stress. And then we're going to get into things like long term, like retirement, and just planning for the rest of your financial life. We'll be right back. Are you already divorced and feeling like you're ready for more? Okay, if you are thinking like, yes, I want to tell you about the Ready for More community, which is a safe, supportive place for women after divorce to thrive. It was founded by Carolyn Biliak and Mimi Sullivan, two divorced women who help people through retreats, classes, coaching, support groups, anything after divorce related to help you figure out your life and just live a happy, healthy post-divorce life. If you want to learn more, go to rebrandingdivorce.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful divorce attorney in Illinois named Debbie Cohen. Debbie is caring, compassionate, non-judgmental, and so passionate about helping people through divorce. Debbie is somebody I know personally and have known for a while. She knows how devastating the consequences can be of getting divorced, and she genuinely cares about the outcome of each case. If you want to learn more, you can find Debbie at CohenFamilyLawyer.com. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today, I'm here with Leah Hadley, who's a CDFA, a financial advisor, and does coaching, a divorce mediator, and has a coach, wonderful coach named Liesl Darby that works with her. And Leah and I are talking about being intimidated and being fearful about your financial situation. Did we leave anything off the list? Yes, we did. Beside the list of what people are fearing.
Yeah. I mean, this time of year, Jackie, the thing that's on everybody's mind is taxes. And so that is definitely, if you are not somebody who has handled your taxes in the past, or even if you have and you know your tax situation changed dramatically because of your divorce, but you don't necessarily know what that looks like in terms of dollars, that can feel very scary. And that is completely and totally normal. And something that we can get a very clear answer on. It's one of those things, and that's one of the things that I talk with people about a lot, Jackie, is so often we have these financial fears and stresses that just swim in our minds. And we're not making them tangible. When we're talking about money, we're talking about something tangible, right? We can touch it. We can look at it. We know exactly what numbers look like, right? We don't have to have these fears swimming in our minds. So when it comes to taxes in particular, if your tax situation has changed and it's something that you're fearful of, I cannot encourage you enough to sit down with a tax preparer and accountant earlier rather than later So you're not just guessing. You might be in a better tax situation than you realize. It's just that unknown. So clarifying that unknown as soon as possible is really important.
Well, listen, people are listening going, I don't have time to do that. I have a meeting with my divorce attorney, my mediator, my divorce coach, my this, my that, a lot of meetings. But Leah, that is a really, really good piece of advice. Just get a good accountant. If you have a guy that you and your husband use together and it's his college buddy's son or something like that, and now you can start fresh. Get an accountant. You can ask me. You can sign up for one of my consults. You can ask Leah for a referral and just sit down and give them all your financials and they will help you because you don't want a surprise like, oh, you're going to owe $20,000, at the end of the year. You need to have the information.
Absolutely, 100%.
All right. What about the stock market? There's a lot of people who get intimidated by it.
I would say most people do, Jackie. I mean, honestly, I think most people do. And I think it's because people do not understand what drives the market. And actually, what drives the market is pretty simple. In the short term, the market's driven by headlines. It is. It's those reactions. It's reactions to earnings. It's reactions to tariffs. It's reactions to whatever is in the headlines. Short-term fluctuation absolutely is going to be impacted by those headlines.
But
However,
short term doesn't really matter.
that's exactly right.
Mhm.
Long-term wealth creation is created by seeing increase in profitability within the companies that you are investing in, right? And so over time, what we have seen is companies continuing to innovate, find ways to grow profitability. That's what grows value for shareholders, right? So that is really what drives long-term growth in the stock market. So there are a lot of times where, Jackie, people truly do believe they've missed the opportunity. The opportunity is past them. People made money in the stock market and we've moved past that. And there are a lot of people out there who believe that. You think about the innovation that's happening in the world today. It's incredible. It's fast. It's happening. And it is increasing profitability for companies. Again, what drives growth over time in the market is that increased corporate profitability. And so I'm a firm believer that we have lots of opportunity to continue to innovate and find ways to increase profits. And so that's why I love educating people about the market, helping them to understand the market dynamics. But most importantly, for most people, helping them to understand how it helps them get their goals faster, right? How they can achieve their goals by really allowing their money to work for them. And for somebody who's never had to make those investment decisions before, that can be really scary, especially, and I actually just did a video on this. A lot of times people think when you have less money, there's more fear. But actually, you can make much bigger financial mistakes when you have more money. There's just more at stake, right? And so if you're somebody who's like, oh my goodness, I'm now responsible for these big financial investment decisions, yes. Yeah, that can feel very scary, but you can also level up your education. There's so many podcasts out there. There's so much content out there. Read the Wall Street Journal. It might not be your favorite thing, but you might find it really interesting, right? Whatever you can do to really start to increase your knowledge and understanding, that's going to help you to understand when your investment account is going up and down. When should I be concerned and when should I just know that's a normal part of investing? Volatility is a normal part of investing. But part of what we do, we actually have a membership program called the Empowered Sisterhood. And a lot of what we do in that program is breaking down conversations around money. So many people are afraid to have these conversations around money. But if we bring it into the light and we say, hey, Jackie, I'm really nervous because my, investment account is down 10%. Like, what should I be worried about? Should I be doing something about this? Suddenly you're not in it by yourself. You have the expertise, obviously, of our team, but then other people in the community who are like, you know what? I was really worried about that too. Let's talk about that. And that's where we can really level up our knowledge and build that financial confidence. So now you can have that conversation with your financial advisor that maybe you were not comfortable having before.
Okay, when I was younger, like in my 30s, 40s, I used to get statements and I would be so upset if it went down and I would worry and I would think, oh my gosh. As I've gotten older and much more busy and I don't even have time to look at my statements, it's like if you look at your statement once a year and you look at history, it's almost guaranteed that it's gone up every single year. Well, no, that's not true. There are some years that are down years, but if you look at your account from, let's say you go back 5 years, it's almost guaranteed. And I know, like compliance, you're not really allowed to answer this, Leah, but I can say it because I'm just a person. I don't have a compliance department here at Divorce Girl Smiling. But it's a long-term strategy, especially retirement assets. You're not allowed to take that money out till you're 59 and a half anyway. And so if you think about it and you just put it away and you trust your financial advisor, you have nothing to worry about, and you have to just kind of try to forget it. And when I've heard, like in the news, how bad the markets are, like a few years ago, we had a big dip. I just don't open my statements. Like, that's my solution to the problem. And then I let a few months go by. And then when I open it, it's back to where it was.
So, Jackie, I had this great conversation with a client last year. She had sold her business, so she's a pretty new investor because she had taken the proceeds from the sale and invested them in a portfolio of stocks. And the market was down like 10 or 15%. I don't remember the exact number. And she's calling me and she's nervous. This is her first time experiencing this as a stock investor. And I said, look, I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you feel really uncomfortable. And she's like, what's that? And I said, if we see the market go down another 5 or 10%, I'm going to be calling you and saying, let's put more money to work. This is a great opportunity. And especially for those who are in the accumulation phase, as counterintuitive as it feels, if you're consistently investing, let's say in your 401k every paycheck or what have you benefit when the market goes down. You're buying more shares at a lower cost. So over time, that makes you more money. So actually, if you're in that active accumulation phase, you want to buy at cheaper prices. And again, I know that's very counterintuitive for people. The more that you can get comfortable with that and knowing that that presents opportunities for you, I think that's so powerful. But the other thing I wanted to just follow up on that you said, Jackie, was, make sure you trust your financial advisor and then just stay invested, right? Which I think is huge. But the thing that keeps coming up in financial plans that we're working on with people is people mismanaging their 401ks. This is coming up constantly, where they're not working with their financial advisor on their 401k possibly, or maybe they're working with the person, from the company or whatever it is.
You mean they're not contributing?
They may not be getting enough to do the full company match. That comes up a lot. So maybe they're contributing, but they're missing, and sometimes thousands of dollars a year, Jackie. Or maybe they don't understand how the match is calculated. That comes up. But the bigger one is how the account is actually invested. How the accounts are invested. We see 401ks, and for most Americans, that's really where you're building your retirement wealth, is in your 401k. They are just very, very poorly invested. And in some cases, their employer may not have the best options. That absolutely happens. But I think more often than not, people don't have enough information to make really good, well-educated decisions around how to optimize this particular account. And we actually have a class coming up this Thursday called Intentional Money Moves, the 401k masterclass for women building wealth. And we are specifically addressing this issue because it's my little soapbox issue right now. I want people's 401ks invested well.
Okay, what's the date? What's the time? And how can they sign up?
It is on February 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can sign up on the Watch Her Thrive website, watchherthrive.co. On that website, it's right on the homepage. You'll be able to select the link right on the homepage. And even if you can't come live, register, get the recording, and just make sure that you're really optimizing your 401k.
Wow, I love it. I love the soapbox. Okay, we have a few more minutes, so I want to talk about retirement and the importance of planning ahead. So I got divorced when I was 41. I was not thinking about retirement at that point, but then I never thought about it. Why should I have been thinking about that at 41, Leah?
So the financial decisions that you make through the divorce process will impact the rest of your life. It is, for most people, the largest financial transaction of their life. They might not be thinking about it that way, but that's what it is. What we often see people doing, Jackie, is we talked about fear. This is, we've been talking a lot about fear. When we're talking about fear, people tend to be very, very short-sighted, right? We're looking at the here and the now. How do I make myself more comfortable from this fear in this moment in time? Well, if retirement is 20 or 30 years down the road, that's probably not going to come top to mind, right? That's probably not going to be the first thing you're thinking about. So we talked about one of the biggest fears that people have is around their housing situation when it comes to a divorce. So it's very common for people to negotiate that they are going to give up retirement funds in order to stay in the home. I see it all the time, okay? Um, for a lot of people, that's not a great option. That's not a great option because for most people who do that, they're not in a situation to be able to rebuild those retirement savings, right? And so now, great, you have this house, but what are you going to retire on down the road, right? Maybe you're just going to end up having to sell that house. But that's the thing, is that we really want people to think when they're making the financial decisions through the divorce process, not from the space of fear. Let's work on clearing out the fear, and we can talk about some specific ways to do that. But let's clear out the fear and make decisions based on not just what feels uncomfortable today, but what's going to set me up for long-term success. And part of that is making sure that you have retirement funds in place. The other piece that a lot of times people don't think about is when you're planning retirement together, you're doing it jointly, right? You both have retirement assets. You're planning it together. If you're short, maybe your partner makes up for it, right? When you're planning on your own, it all falls on you. And so if you have not prepared accordingly, as necessary, you're not going to have the funds to be able to continue to not work. What's going to happen is you're going to have to go back to work at some time or, live a very different lifestyle than maybe you're accustomed to. So making those decisions about those retirement assets, even though they're not going to necessarily impact you sitting here today if retirement is way down the road, it still has an impact, and it still has a really important impact. Now, if you're close to retirement, which we work with lots of people who are either close to retirement or actually have recently retired, that conversation about retirement assets just becomes so much more important, and making sure that both people are positioned in such a way that they can enjoy their retirement. And it's not all of a sudden we've made this change in our family and our whole lifestyle has to change.
Okay, now I will just even make this even more concrete and tell people that if you sit down with a financial advisor, because people might be listening and going, well, how do I plan? How do I do this? All you have to do is have a financial advisor plug in all these numbers and they'll give you these different scenarios. Here's what the rest of your life's going to look like if you keep the house. Here's how much you need to make. I mean, we're talking lots of different scenarios so that you can make decisions based on the scenarios. You might say, well, I don't want to work till I'm 65. So maybe I don't want to keep the house because I'm going to be spending $5,000 a month on the mortgage for the next 20 years or 10 years or whatever. They'll ask you, well, how long do you think you want to keep the house if you keep the house? So there's just all these variables they can put in that help you make these decisions, and they can plan your life out until you're living till 90.
Well, we can plan for your future generations. There is no
Yeah.
limit, right?
Yeah,
Um,
also, how important is it to you to die and have money to leave to your kids? Maybe you don't really care. So, I mean, of course, everybody wants to leave their kids money, but how much?
yeah.
So it's all knowledge is how you can make good decisions by knowing your different options.
Absolutely. And as far as just kind of getting through the fear, right? I encourage people to look at two things, right? Because there's so many things we talked about today, and it can just feel so overwhelming, and we can't do it all. We can't look at it all at once, Jackie. We can't do it all at once. So I encourage people, as you're working through this, to prioritize one thing at a time. And when you're prioritizing that one thing, what is the thing that is giving you the greatest stress at this moment in time? And if I focus on that one thing and really work through, okay, let's say I'm trying to figure out, can I afford to stay in this house? Let's work through that exercise. Let's look at other options and see, can you afford and do you like some of these other options? Suddenly, again, like what you were just saying, it becomes concrete, it becomes clear. And okay, we can check that box. We've made a decision. Let's move on to the next thing that's, concerning us. But you can't do it all at once. But the more you can get clear on the specifics that are causing the fear, You're exactly right that financial planners do have the tools to be able to model that out for you to see specifically what does this actually look like in my life.
And then you're not waking up at 2 in the morning going, what am I going to do? How am I going to make this decision? Just say to yourself, my financial advisor is going to give me options, and then I'm going to make the decision. Good night, and go back to sleep.
Keep in mind, though, if we're talking divorce specifically, you really do want a financial advisor that does have that CDFA designation. So that's the divorce-specific training is very, very important when it comes to negotiations.
And also a mortgage lender who's a CDLP can help a
Yes,
lot too.
absolutely.
Leah, this has been so I feel like it's been such a great conversation, and if I was somebody listening, I'd be like, wow, this was really helpful.
Good.
That's how I try to do my podcast. I want people to feel like they're sitting in the room with us, getting a really good consultation. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, it's been my absolute pleasure. Jackie, thanks for having me.
If you want to talk to Leah or have a consult or learn more, you can find her at intentionaldivorcesolutions.com. You can also find her in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling, which is divorcedgirlsmiling.com. And you can go to Divorced Girl Smiling to listen to more podcasts, read articles on any topic related to divorce or dating. I think there's like thousands of articles on there now, or find other trusted, vetted divorce professionals, anything from attorneys, therapists, divorce coaches to real estate agents, mortgage lenders, and more. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.